You ready?
Yeah.
Are you going to say something to me like speed? Thank you. Well, Johnny, let's talk a little bit about growing up in New Jersey.
I haven't grown up yet, so I don't know.
What were your earliest recollections of growing up here?
Growing up in New Jersey, the first thing I can remember is all the Jersey jokes. We would watch TV at night. We watched Ed Sullivan and the local news, and they would always make jokes about New Jersey. New Jersey was the poor relations of the East Coast, and you really got a sense of feeling inferior in New Jersey, and that was the one great lesson I learned in my youth.
Why do you think all the jokes were being told? I mean, what about it is New Jersey that makes it the butt of so many jokes?
I think the problem with New Jersey is that it is an industrial state, even though it's the Garden State. Everyone sees, when you get off the... You're helping out a lot, pal. The first thing someone sees when they get off the plane in Newark, New Jersey, is Newark, New Jersey. And that's never the best thing to see early in the morning. There's a lot of oil refineries in the area. It's a very urban, sprawl, industrial mess. There's a lot of New Jersey that's very nice. There's a lot of people in New Jersey that are very nice people. But most people just pass through, see only that section. And I think that's one of the reasons why there's so many jokes about New Jersey. Most people who don't live here only see the worst part.
What are some of the prettier parts of New Jersey?
The prettier parts of New Jersey? Well, we have a great seashore when New York isn't befouling it with their own crap and garbage. I don't know how long, it's 100 miles long or something like that. The interior section is farmlands, very nice farmlands. Up north, there's mountains and hills. Mountains, you know, Jersey mountains, about 30 feet high. And there is the Pine Barrens down in South Jersey, which John McPhee wrote about. Very unique area. The only pine barren, they have scrub pines that only get to be about 5 feet tall, but it's a whole forest of them, and it's a very interesting little area. But it's nothing to do with industrial New Jersey, which everybody knows. So it's for us. We keep it to ourselves.
Let's talk a little bit about music. What kind of music did you grow up listening to?
I grew up listening to my parents' records. My father's a musician in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. He played bass, played a lot of jazz, a lot of blues. My mother was a great rhythm and blues fan, so the only music I ever heard when I was a kid was Billie Holiday, Count Basie, who's from New Jersey, Duke Ellington, Louis Armstrong, Joe Turner, all of the big jazz and rhythm and blues stars, and they played the records loud too, which everybody in Ocean Grove hated, but who cares?
What about, did you listen to one of New Jersey's favorite sons, Frank Sinatra?
Yes, my mother was a big Frank Sinatra fan. I don't know, I think my father had ambivalent feelings about Frank Sinatra. I liked him. He had a very nice, warm voice, and it seemed when I was a kid that he was singing to you, as Billie Holiday seemed to be singing about her own pain. I liked that too. I thought Frank Sinatra was great, still do. Questionable morally, maybe, but great singer.
What about Sarah Vaughn? Did you listen to her, another New Jerseyite?
My parents weren't real big fans of Sarah Vaughan. I have become a fan of hers over the years. I think she's made great records, and she's really one of the best singers that jazz has ever produced. Almost as good as Billie Holiday.
When did rock and roll enter the picture, John?
I'm trying to remember the first time I heard a rock and roll song. I used to listen to WNJR, which is now defunct, I guess, and a guy named Jocko Henderson, who was a DJ from Newark, New Jersey, and he played all rhythm and blues. Elmore James, Muddy Waters, later on the early Temptations and Smokey Robinson and the Miracles, but he played the Rolling Stones doing Not Fade Away, which is an old Buddy Holly song. They did real rock and roll rhythm and blues style, and it knocked me out. And it was the first English rock and roll band I ever heard that I liked. I wasn't a fan of the Beatles, certainly didn't like Jerry and the Pacemakers or anything like that. But the Rolling Stones were great, I liked them. And that's the real first rock and roll, outside of Elvis Presley and Jerry Lee Lewis and Little Richard. We heard a lot of their records too, but we didn't buy them. I first started buying records on my own with the Rolling Stones. Rock and roll records.
How did you decide to become a musician?
I never decided to become a musician. It sort of happened to me. I always had a facility for remembering lyrics. And I always liked to sing. I used to stay home from school and clean up my parents' house and put on the records and sing, or the radio, and sing along with it all the time. And I knew a lot of Italian guys from Bradley Beach and Asbury Park, two surrounding towns of my hometown of Ocean Grove, and they had a cappella groups. And we used to stand out on the street corners, just like they say, and this is in the early 60s, sing all the Frank Liner Teenagers and the Flamingos and the Harp Tones. And one day a friend of mine who was in a band, a guy named Sonny Ken, said, "You, come sing in my band." And I never thought twice about it. I knew the words to the songs, got up on stage and started singing, and that was a million years ago, and I never looked back. It just, to me, was something that happened. And now, all these years later, 9 albums later, or who knows how many concerts, I'm a musician. I never tried to be, it just sort of happened.
We're sitting here in Asbury Park, so let's talk a little bit about what happened here and how that had an effect on your life and New Jersey music in general.
Well, Asbury Park was the pivotal town for me because I could walk to Asbury Park. I never learned how to drive. I don't have a car. I never got involved in any of the teen stuff that way. But I could walk to a club called the Upstage Club, which was a jam club. No age limit to get in because there's no alcohol served. And you could play till 5 o'clock in the morning with whoever came in. Bruce Springsteen used to come in, Steve Van Zandt, Dave Sanchez, God, a million musicians used to come through here. And I was sort of the resident vocalist. It gave me a chance. It gave me the college education I never got. It gave me a chance to grow as a musician, to learn to sing in all sorts of situations, all different types of music, and it gave everybody a chance to interact and play to an audience. And I think that the Upstage Club was the pivotal part of all our careers. There were a lot of other clubs to play at, but none afforded you the openness that the Upstage Club did. Now, right behind me is the Stone Pony. That's a club that started later in the 70s, and that's where we made money. That's where we made reputations for being good acts live. But I think we all learned how to play a lot earlier at places like the Student Prince and the Upstage. All of us that learned anyway.
During that time, when you and I were talking the other day, we were talking about the fact that there was a lot of pressure just to do top 40 material, and you guys didn't. How did that all evolve?
Well, the tradition has always been, I think, in music, that if you want to make it without being known, you have to play the hit records, the top 40 bands. And I never did that. I never would do that. I didn't like the top 40 material. I couldn't see singing something I didn't like just to make money. Still don't. But we were fortunate in Asbury Park and in New Jersey that there's a lot of people who want to hear original material. I want to hear different styles of material. And we picked right up on that. We played a lot of rhythm and blues, played reggae, blues, rock and roll, whatever, country. I was in a country band playing bass in the early 70s, and that was successful too. It's always seemed to me that the people in New Jersey have been open-minded about music. They don't get the respect people in New York get as an audience. Consequently, they have more respect for the people that will play in front of them and give them everything they've got, which gives you the ability to play any kind of material you want. As long as you play it well, in New Jersey, it'll be accepted.
We talked a little bit the other day too about how, the blue-collar ethic of New Jersey. How do you think that's reflected in the music?
I believe that most of New Jersey is hardworking people, and they like to hear music made by people who are working hard at making good music, not necessarily sweating their brains out on stage, but at least putting some thought and effort into the music. And it creates a very urban sound for music. It makes the music you're making harder edged, more exciting, because you have to really work to get them excited. They've worked all day or all week. It's Friday night. They're spending their money that they've earned, and they don't want a lot of phony baloney stuff. They don't want a lot of made-up, self-centered music. They want music that gets them moving, and I think that's tradition in New Jersey.
How important was that tradition of people in the writing of songs and the actual sound?
As far as songwriting, I'm not the great expert on that, but I think that a lot of people who've written songs in New Jersey know the audience in New Jersey, and they realize they have to put out a lot more than if it were for some sort of programmed audience, if you know what I mean. And I think a lot of the songwriters in New Jersey, I know some of them, reflect very well with that. I'm trying to think how I can say it. They never lose the idea that they're part of the people too, and they know what people want to. They don't know what they want to hear, but they know what people will accept and be excited by, because they're no different than the audience they're playing for, and I think that affects the lyrics and the attitude for all musicians, or not.
Okay.
Killer Bird. You're awful serious.
Huh?
You're awful serious.
Am I being awfully serious?
Yes.
Am I making you awfully serious?
Yes.
Should we lighten up?
Ask a stupid question. Ask a stupid
question. Oh my God. I can't even think of a stupid question. I'm being so serious.
We'll
here.
ask your next one then. I'll make it stupid.
Okay. We'll ask a more fun question. And let's ask a question about fun then. Was it fun living here during that time and just hanging out, and was it creative and exciting, or?
The greatest years of my life, especially the youthful part of my life, which is long past, was playing in this area. There was so many bands, so many people would come to see you. You could do anything you wanted. There were girls and wild times. You had the beach, you had Under the Boardwalk. It was a great time for me, and I think it was a great time for most of the musicians that came out of Asbury Park and New Jersey, because there was such great interaction, and it was warm. It was the summers of the late 60s, early 70s. A lot of wild things going on, and we did everything we could. We had every experience that was thrown at us, and we made the best of it. And I always remember those times very fondly. The ones I can remember, that is.
Was it mostly people who lived around here, or were people moving here during that time?
No, I think it was mostly, most musicians were indigenous to New Jersey, that played in New Jersey. There weren't a lot. The great leveler was New York City, and everybody wanted to go to New York City and be discovered. Unfortunately, the first experience I ever had in New York City, the club owner, I think it was the Cafe Wah back then, charged the band that I knew $125 to play in his club, to be discovered, and they didn't get discovered, and they paid him to play, and he charged people to come in at the door and made the bar and all. And I swore I'd never do that. And so for a long time, no one would come to Asbury Park or anywhere in New Jersey to see a band. And it wasn't until Bruce had Born to Run and some success with that the executives in New York would get off their ass and get into a limousine and drive the whole hour and a half down to see bands like us. And we got a chance to show what we could do and get signed too. But I swore I would never go into New York City and cater to the New York City taste.
What about Philly? Did you guys go down to Philly a lot?
No, there wasn't. For us, there wasn't. The funny thing is that Philadelphia, being close by, an hour and a half away, wasn't really a hotbed for us. They had their own music scene. But the city that was the adjunct to New Jersey was Richmond, Virginia. I don't know why that is. I know we all started going down there and playing in places like the Cellar Door and the Persian Room. The same kind of dives we have here in New Jersey. For some reason, Richmond, Virginia was a sister city. And we made the most of that too. Good $30 a night a piece. And all you had to do was ride 5 hours out down there and spend $30 on gas.
Richmond, Virginia. I mean,
who knows why?
Who knew? Who would have even have thunk it? What was the best show you ever saw here?
Ooh, the best show I ever saw here. I'd have to say James Brown, 1963. Right up there at the convention hall. I was only 14, I think, and I was slightly inebriated on Applejack that an older friend of mine had given me. And we went in to see James Brown. And here comes this guy out on stage. The girls are screaming. He's doing all these moves. He's screaming. He's singing. I went, I want to do that. And about 12 years later, I got a chance to play on the same stage, and it was packed, and people had banners. And it's a very emotional moment for me. It sort of condensed a whole career into one night. You try to do something. You try to make your own music. You try to achieve things that your heroes have achieved. And in one night, you got to do all that. I got to do all that. So it was a very important moment for me.
Who are some of your other heroes?
Otis Redding was a big hero. Ray Charles, Billie Holiday, Louis Armstrong, Muddy Waters. There are more people who have influenced me than I can name in a week. Literally thousands. I don't think there's anyone I've ever heard that I've liked that I haven't taken something from, learned something from.
Got that question again.
Okay.
Lost in the car.
Okay.
Well, get out there and get him out of here.
What was the question?
Who are some of your other heroes? She says, who are some of your other heroes? And I say, Who are some of my other heroes? I don't know. There are a million singers that have influenced me. There are also a million musicians, but there's other people too. Among the singers, we have to be Ray Charles, Billie Holiday, Frank Sinatra, as we mentioned before. Forgetting now. Otis Redding, Sam and Dave, Aretha Franklin, a million of them, literally. But there have been a lot of people that influenced me too. People who live their lives in an honest way and in a true way. I think that affects the way you make music. If you get up on stage and you feel like there's my friend, Gary Talent, who's a bass player. He always, to me, represented the moral person. Because he was always a high-minded person, and he's a musician, and he get involved in a lot of sleazy stuff as a musician, and he never let it sway him. And I always used to remember him whenever I got tempted with offers for slightly illegal or not so nice things. I haven't always done as well as he's done, but I tried.
When you,
There, Pat.